that will make you more relevant almost immediately. Therefore, I repeat, reconcile your ability to do and your love for that something that you want to do so that they can be together. If you're having challenges in that, get a mentor, somebody who can sit with, explain yourself, and they'll also explain to you what they see you becoming. That way, you shall now have better time value for money. Another point, as you grow, this is the right age now where majority of you are going to make significant decisions upon your life. You have become men, and real men. There is no doubt about that. Now you are qualified. Now you are all at par, the men of this class. But if I was to take a stock of what happened to you after 5 years, after 10 years, though you are one at this point, people will be at various levels. Is that true? Some will have gone the right way. God forbid, some will be left a little bit behind. Some others might have made other decisions concerning their lives. But if I took another stock take 20 years down the road, then the variations becomes even bigger. Why? Because the focus onto some of these things that we are getting trained now don't sink now until sometimes we go to prove the point. I'd like to tell you, gentlemen, where you can avoid reinventing the wheel. You can try to do a square wheel, put it on a bicycle. Can that bicycle run? What about if you put a triangular wheel? Can it run? If you put a circular wheel, can it run? Then, the bicycles that we have today, what kind of a shape do they have? A circular wheel. So don't try to test a triangular wheel when a circular one works. Are we together? Keep it that way. And then see how that bicycle can help you to do all those other things. Because like most of us, when I born mzazi, don't try this one is not good, or a significant one in your life. But still, you want to go out there and try it out yourself to see whether you come back to the same conclusion. You'll come to find that the most efficient way is the tested way, where people have gone through the same kind of road and they have succeeded. That way you shall save on time. Okay. Therefore, it implies, what do you need to do? You will set up what we call core values. And now I want to help you see how to generate some of your core values. What I call the tools of trade that will help you to significantly improve the quality of your life. For example, the doctors tell us that we have to sleep how many hours per day? 8 hours. Supposing you don't sleep for 8 hours every day, what happens? So do you believe the doctors? Do you just sleep 8 hours? Or you try to see what happens if you don't sleep? Have you ever tried not to sleep? At least for one night, going through a kesha, for example. Have you? What happened the following day? You're drowsy, eh? And when you sit, you feel like as if you just want to sleep. Supposing you went the second day without sleep. And the third day, what's going to happen on the fourth day? You just drop somewhere on the side of the road as you walk. Why? Because our bodies are created in such a way that certain things must be done at certain times. And therefore, since you have already been informed, why do you want to try something that has already been tested? Therefore, you set a core value of one tested thing. Even if I miss sleep, I will not go below 5 hours. Because of variations of where you could be, what is happening in your life, sometimes you could find the day goes a little bit longer. Like when we revise for exams, what happened? You spent a little bit more time studying than sleeping, isn't it? So those kind of situations come because of the season. And therefore you say, I will not sleep for less than 5 hours. So you set yourself a standard. Then what happens when you wake up after 5 hours? Then you have now to set another value. As you set the milestones, for you now to achieve those milestones, you need to set certain values that will help you maintain a clear standard of success. Now, we agree that you're not going to do drugs. Supposing before you slept you took bangi. I saw another young boy doing it. You puff, you pull that stuff. What happens to you? Will you be able to sleep? Will you be able to sleep? Have you ever seen one who is intoxicated? Have you ever seen a drunk man? Have you? How much can they do? Now, if that becomes a way of life and a standard that you have to drag yourself before you do any particular activity, let me assure you, most likely you're not going to achieve those things. And I set myself some core values as follows. Supposing you want to succeed and run a marathon, what would be the kind of standards would you set for yourself? You want to run a marathon at Boston and win. What would you start by doing? Yes? Something else? Practicing. Where? Press-ups, sit-ups, running, and jogging. Yes, what else? How many times a day? Yes. Somebody else? Aerobics? You do aerobics? Something else? We are now into marathon. Our goal is marathon, to win the Boston Marathon. Yes, what else would we do? Excellent. Let's clap for him. Why are shoes important? It's the contact that you have to the ground, isn't it? Supposing you're wearing anything else like the butter bullets, can you run? What about if you wear gumboots? Can you run a marathon? Can you run a marathon wearing gumboots? You can't. So you might get the right shoe for you to practice. And then when you practice, you must also wear the right shoe to go and win that marathon. Now, why am I saying this? It's because you must select specific items for the causes and purposes to which you have been called. You must now sit down and select. You could love athletics, but if you have the wrong shoe, you won't make it. It will interfere and block your success. And it is going to clearly block your success. So don't wear gumboots when you go to practice running a marathon. And if you see one wearing, call him on the side and tell him, I'm sorry, this shoe will not work. Okay, you can help them by doing counseling. And then supposing you want to be a teacher, what do you require to do? What kind of values do you want to have? You wear a white apron, like a doctor. You wear a stethoscope. achieved, and then they tell you exactly why and how they have been able to succeed. Are we together? Because you cannot just sit and take up everything without first of all isolating what that particular course will require. And therefore, when you set your values, it's not a copy and paste. You have to identify who you want to become, get the right tools, and then start using them. So if you want to become an engineer, keep up the good work and the grades on those science subjects. But that does not mean that, how much did you get in languages, English, Swahili? Not as much as 98. It was a bit, it was a bit low. Okay, let's keep that private. Yeah, so also, because you need to tell others what you're doing, isn't it? So you need the language. So don't ignore some of these things. But you must be particular what it is required of you at that particular point. Supposing you wanted to become a politician, what do you require? Words. A mouth. You want to become? Yes? Ability to make a speech. Language. Yes? 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 Political spirit. Yes? Fame. How do you get fame? And always appearing in the press. Okay, whether they are true or not. Okay. Somebody else? Courage. Excellent. Yes, you need courage. Because sometimes people say things here, they say things here. Then sometimes you feel bad. Then you need to be courageous. Otherwise you give up. Somebody else? Now, do these things that you are talking about, politicians, required by teachers, required by doctors, do you need courage to become a doctor? You need. What about being a teacher? Yes. There are things that are common to all of us. That's the point I want to make. And these are also stated in the Word of God. So it's not hidden. Be strong and courageous. Because whatever else you're going to do, these are foundational sets that you must be strong and courageous to achieve anything. Because much more will be required of you. Now, there are two things that compete at all times. Expectation and reality. It comes as follows. Are you okay? Expectation and reality. How many people did an exam this year? How many? Now, how many are expecting A? How many are expecting something like slightly below A? Yeah, you're honest. How many are not expecting anything? Okay. Majority of us, almost 90%, I saw those hands, we are expecting A's. But what is the reality of the matter? Those who are expecting A's, how many had A's in their mocks? There are fewer hearts than before. Yeah, expectation is higher than reality, isn't it? Isn't that true? Now, for those who are expecting A, supposing they don't get A, they get something slightly below. Would they be happy? But would they be able to change anything about that number? No. Now, that is another source of either sorrow, grief, or joy. I have seen people who have been expecting A past exams, and they got something like a B+. Some cried the whole night instead of rejoicing that they are still going to university. What will happen if you don't get an A? You move on. You are a man. Because life goes on. Now, the reality of the matter will be printed on that slip when it comes with what you did. And therefore, the reconciliation between the expectation And reality, sometimes it causes a lot of problems to many of us. And let me tell you, reality proves exactly who we are. Sometimes it doesn't, according to our expectations. Because you see, I can't believe I didn't get an A, but you have a B plus. And then it looks like as if that exam should be repeated by everybody so that you can actually get the A that you wanted. And therefore, how long we take to accept the difference or the gap between our expectation and reality determines also how we are going to achieve the next level. And I like what this young man has said. You have to move on. You take up from where you are and then move on. Because majority of us give up. Imagine a man giving up. And God says in Genesis 3:17, we have just read it, everything that you shall ever do, you have to sweat it out. Now, if you give up, what's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to you? So you might take up the thesis, and then from that particular point, sit down with your significant ones, and then set the stage based on the milestones that you have set. Okay? Does it matter if you got a B plus instead of an A plus? In many cases, it doesn't. Though it does. Psychologically, if you got an A, it gives you a boost, probably be carried shoulder high in your estate, like I have seen in the TV. They call the guy who had the highest points, and then you are carried by moms and sisters and others, shoulder high, and they sing songs for you. It feels good. And then everybody now sees you in Kenya, that's top. Of course it's good, isn't it? But supposing you didn't have that opportunity, what happens? Your life goes on, isn't it? And it doesn't mean that you're a failure. So these are moments sometimes that we sulk, we feel bad, because it is not us who are called My Nation newspaper, and then put on TV, and then all those things happening. Therefore, you must learn to take up reality as it comes. Because sometimes reality could mean adversity to us, but the Word of God is reminding us that all things work together for good. I'm not encouraging failure, but if reality shows up for you that morning, please learn to take it, because life has to go on. Are we okay? But if you got an F or a C or a D or an E or those kind of marks because you didn't put energy and effort, then don't curse anyone. There are cases that are very clear that somebody did not work very hard, and then you don't get marks. If you didn't work, of course, you don't get. Sendio? Yeah. But if you worked hard, you must have 98%. That's everything. So you don't expect to get 20. Surely. No matter how hard it became. If you are an A student, you always be. But that's why I desire that all of you are. So I pray that God will grant you good success because of the time that you have invested. Now the reality will come maybe before the end of this month. When does the exam results come? Around 28. So I pray that all of us, we shall rejoice by what we shall get. And then we are going to make a fundamental decision now to meet our next milestones, because now we know how to set them up. Sitting with our mentors, presenting the results, and then we'll be able now to move to the next level. That's how we succeed. Okay? Experience the shock or the joy, then call your significant ones, make the right decisions, and then go on to the next stage. For success is still ahead. Okay, there are still more exams to do, isn't it? And God will bless you. Now, one last slide. I want to show on time allocation. Another simple illustration that helps you to determine how you spread your time on a day-to-day. Now, for the 70 years we know, don't we? We don't have to spread our time on the 70 years. Let's work now on a smaller portion, 24 hours. How many hours are there in a day? 24. 12 hours daylight, 12 hours darkness. How many hours do we sleep? Let's say 8. 24 minus 8. How many hours are left? How many hours do we go to class? 8 or 6. How many hours do you spend in school per day? No, effective time that you are studying. 7. Okay, let's agree, 8. It will vary, yeah? From school to school. Let's say 8. So if you slept 8 and spent 8, how many hours are those? 8 plus 8? How many hours are left? 8. 8. Because we said that day has got 24 hours. Sindio? 8 hours you have slept, 8 you have studied. So 16 hours are spent. How many hours are left? 8. What do you do with those other 8 hours? Help us to... What do you do with those other 8 hours when you're not in class or sleeping? What do you do with the other 8 hours? Anything? Just one thing you do? And how long you do it? Yeah? Yes? You study and then play? For how long? 2 hours. You are still left with 6. Anything else after 2 hours? But you already slept 8 hours. Or you do some more. How many more hours of sleep? So you sleep for 10 hours. You still have 4 left. Yes? Now, I wanted to tell you that as you see us struggling to find exactly what we did with 8 hours, those additional remaining hours, that is still part of our life. It means that that is one area that we have not really focused on. And therefore, for those who have got extracurricular activities like hobbies that help them, like athletics, you can go play tennis, you can go do what. This is where now those kind of hobbies and the things you love to do get their time. They should not come to obstruct the main course of your life like study or sleep, because you still have extra 8 hours left. And you can take 1 hour there, you can take another 1 hour there, and therefore you can be in a position to really complete your life with the things you love to do. What I wanted to tell you is that that time is available to everyone. Even me, I work for 8 hours. I have to sleep for the hours I have. But now the rest of the time, what do I do with it? It is an area that most of us have ignored. It is an area that most of us have not focused carefully. And therefore, if you love football, probably you could have gone to the pitch. But because you're not well planned, you don't even know where to go, then you must say inapotelea mbali. So I wanted to expose that other section, because if you start investing well in that extra time, having done your core business and slept enough, then those are the extra hours you can engage in hobbies that make you very, very, very productive. If you have drama, you can go to the theater for 2 hours, you can act, you can do whatever else, and then still go back and do whatever else you're supposed to do. Are we together? So I wanted to expose those other 8 hours, because that's where now people who are not very well planned will either join to gangs or join people where they go to visit others in pubs because they didn't know what to do. But there's a lot and plenty to be done. And that's where hobbies get their time. So do not waste that precious 8 hours per day. Because 8 hours per day is a lot of time in a month. How many days are there in a month? 30 days. 30 days times 8 hours is how many hours? 240 hours. How many hours are there in a day? So if you divide 240 by it, those are equivalent to 10 full days in a month of idle time. Are we together? It's like doing nothing from the first day until 10. You didn't know what you're doing. So you can actually see, you can generate another 2 weeks of activity that makes you more productive, having done your studies and having slept enough. You still have an extra 10 days in a month to do all that you wanted to do as far as your hobbies are concerned. So I wanted to expose that particular aspect. Are we together? Because now, as you go now on with your life from this particular stage, everything you do, you have to do it in time. If you want to buy a house, you take a mortgage, 20 years. If you want to buy a car, you have to earn several months' payrolls so that you can raise enough money to buy a car. So everything you do is in time. Even now, what has happened to you will take another week, isn't it? So until Saturday, you'll still be feeling this and that, but so everything happens in time. Therefore, do not lose focus of this time. Are we together? In a month, you have 10 extra days to do your hobbies. Therefore, don't spoil your educational focus because of these extra activities, because you have extra 8 hours in a day to do those other things. Therefore, focus. Focus on your core business. If you're a student, focus on that education. If you're a worker, focus on that activity that you have been employed to do. Because there's still extra time for you after you have finished what you're supposed to have done to do it. Because I'm also realizing men who do not have hobbies become very idle and they are very easy to derail because they just go with the wave. But if you have a hobby, it becomes part of your character. Then your life is coordinated, is regulated by the kind of activities that you anchor yourself in. So get into productive activities. And hobbies are the best because they are things that you love and you can do it without any effort. Am I clear on that? But don't let your hobbies interrupt your core business. So if you're supposed to be in school between 8 and 4 o'clock, please focus on what took you to school. Are we together? And then after school, you can now go for 1 hour to the beach. You can go and swim. You can go and do the others. Then come back, another 1 hour to revise, and so on. Then if you get into that kind of good habit of life, then things are very good for you. Am I clear on that? Yes. And that will come to happen for as long as you live. So start early to invest in some of these areas so that your life becomes orderly and organized. And then you can also become mentors in the future. What do we say about Psalm 78 as I conclude? Because we have told you, now next season, you're going to prepare the next generation. So take up from us and be like us and move on. Because you also have a duty for the ones who are coming after you. Do you know those ones who are now in standard day 3, 4, 5? I see yourself by the time they come to go through this process when they are 14. You'll be standing here with a microphone telling them about what happened. Is that true? Yeah. Therefore, develop good habits, consult. And I insist that you must have a mentor. Even if it's not just one, but many of them, according to your needs.